Let's click Apply this display for now, and then we'll open up the settings for the slideshow format and see if it finds our jQuery plugin. So if we scroll down, we don't see that big red arrow anymore, so we should be good to go. And here's where we were at when we were looking at the settings. So we're down under cycle options now. So we can choose a variety of effects. The fade effect is probably the most standard, so we'll leave that checked for now. Now we don't need to adjust anything in the advanced options, but let's check it just to see what we have to work with. So we can set the timer delay. Right now it's set for 5 seconds, which is 5,000 milliseconds. We can set the speed that each transition takes. Right now it's 0.7 seconds. And we can set an initial slide delay. So the first time that the page displays with the slideshow, how long do we wait for the first transition to take place? I'm going to scroll down. The sync allows the transitions to happen between the different nodes at the same time. So we fade out and fade in at the same time. But if we unchecked sync, then we would fade out first and then fade in. Also, instead of going in order through the paged items, we can select random, which will randomly display items. So we won't necessarily know which one is going to be displayed next. Again, we don't need to adjust these, so I'm going to uncheck the View Transition Advanced options, but it's nice to know that those are there for us when we really want to play with this. For the action, we'll keep Pause on Hover checked. So this is if we're hovering over the node, then it won't transition to the next item while we're hovering. We can also cause it to pause when the slide is clicked, but this doesn't really make sense for us because when someone clicks on the item, we want them to go to the blog entry rather than pause the slideshow. And we also have some additional options here. Let's check out what we have. I'll check this. And the first one is starting the slideshow paused. That should sound pretty straightforward. We can start on the last slide viewed. So this will save some information about what's been viewed already in the slides for this particular user. We can pause when the slideshow isn't visible. So if, for example, the user scrolls down the blog page and the slideshow is hidden above the viewport of the browser, then it won't transition anymore until that's then visible again in the viewport. We can choose not to loop it by clicking End Slideshow after last slide, and I'll scroll down here. And this option here is kind of a nice one to know about. If our slides are going to be different sizes, for example, we're using content that's going to be a variable height, what this will do is set an outside box to the height of the tallest item. If we didn't have this checked, what would happen is as the slideshow moved between items of various heights, it would bump the content down or pull the content up below it. So if the user scrolled down and started reading, they might notice that the content jumps from time to time as the slideshow progresses. Now, most of the time, the slideshows that we're going to create won't have variable heights. We'll make sure that they're going to be the same height regardless. But just in case there's something a little bit off there, having this checked is a good default. We can set the number of items per slide. Right now, we're displaying a title and an image for a single node and scrolling through those, but we could, for example, have 2 images for 2 items and then scroll 2 at a time through the slideshow. This might make sense if we had a slideshow of just titles, for example, if we weren't using images at all, but if we were going to create a feed of content that showed, for example, maybe the top 50 items on our site. In a case like that, we might display 5 items at a time and scroll through those. That might also be a case where our height is variable if we don't have the titles being truncated to display on a single line, for example. And in that case, this setting here will definitely come into play. Okay, I'm going to scroll down here. We can set it to wait for all of the slide images to load, as it says there might be some issues if all of the images aren't loaded and the slideshow starts to roll through. Okay, so I'm going to scroll up here. We didn't need to adjust any of those advanced options, so let's uncheck the View Action Advanced options. So we have a couple of settings for Internet Explorer. So if you're having some trouble displaying exactly what you want to on Internet Explorer, you might want to check these 2 out. And it looks like we have some additional options as well if we wanted to download this JSON2JS library. We're going to skip that for now. We'll get everything we need from the default settings.